From prison straight to the stage with Basta. His story broke me. Have you ever heard a story so powerful it completely changes how you see someone? A story that makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about success, struggle, and second chances? Today, I want to share a story like that. It's about a man who went from the lowest point in his life, locked away from the world, to standing on a stage, sharing his music with a legend. This is the story of how one man's journey from a prison cell to a concert with the iconic rapper Basta completely broke me, and I think it will move you too. Let's set the scene. Imagine the roar of a crowd, thousands of people packed into a stadium, their energy electric. The lights dim, a single spotlight hits the stage, and out walks Basta, one of the most influential figures in the Russian rap scene. The fans go wild. But tonight, something is different. Basta isn't just here to perform his hits. He's here to share the stage, to give a platform to someone whose voice was almost silenced forever. This is where our story truly begins, not with the glamour of the stage, but in the cold, stark reality of a prison. The man who would eventually share that stage is named Oleg. But before he was a performer, he was an inmate. His life had taken a sharp, disastrous turn. Bad choices, the wrong crowd, a moment of desperation, the reasons are complex, as they often are. What matters is that he found himself behind bars, stripped of his freedom, his future looking like a dead end. The days in prison are long and monotonous. It's a place designed to break your spirit. Hope is a scarce commodity. For many, this is where their story ends. But for Oleg, it was, believe it or not, a beginning. In the midst of this bleak environment, Oleg had one thing that couldn't be locked away: his passion for music. He started writing. Not just a few lines here and there, but entire songs. He poured his regret, his pain, his hopes, and his dreams into his lyrics. His cell became his studio, his mind his instrument. He wrote about his past, the mistakes he made, the life he lost. But he also wrote about the future, a future he wasn't even sure he'd have. His words were raw, honest, and incredibly powerful. They were a testament to the human spirit's refusal to be crushed. He held onto this music like a lifeline. It was his connection to the outside world, to the person he wanted to become. Now, here's where things get almost unbelievable. How does a man in prison, with no connections and no resources, get his music heard by a superstar like Basta? It wasn't through a record label or a high-powered manager. It happened through a social project, an initiative designed to give inmates a creative outlet, a chance to rehabilitate through art. Oleg submitted his songs, a message in a bottle thrown into a vast ocean, with no real expectation of what might happen. And then, the impossible occurred. His work, his raw and unfiltered story, made its way to Basta's team. And then to Basta himself. Now, you have to understand, someone like Basta gets thousands of demos. Aspiring artists from all over the country are desperate for his attention. But Oleg's music was different. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about survival, about redemption. It had an authenticity that you just can't fake. Basta heard it. He heard the pain, the talent, and the flicker of hope in Oleg's voice and words. And he was moved. Basta didn't just send a letter of encouragement. He didn't just offer a few kind words. He decided to do something extraordinary. He made a promise. He told Oleg that when he was released, he would have a spot on his stage. Can you imagine receiving that news? While you're still counting down the days, months, or even years of your sentence. To be told that one of your heroes, a giant in the music world, believes in you? It must have felt like a dream. It was more than just an opportunity, it was a validation of his existence, a sign that his voice mattered, that his story was worth telling. This promise became Oleg's guiding star, the motivation he needed to get through the remaining time. Finally, the day came. Oleg walked out of prison a free man. The world must have seemed overwhelming, bright, and loud after so much time away. But he had a purpose. He had a promise to hold on to. And Basta, true to his word, was waiting. The transition from a prison yard to a rehearsal studio is something most of us can't even fathom. There were no cameras, no big press announcement. It was just about the music. Basta worked with Oleg, helping him refine his songs, preparing him for the biggest night of his life. It wasn't about charity, it was about respect between two artists. Basta saw the raw talent and helped shape it for the big stage. And that brings us back to that night, at that massive concert. Basta introduces Oleg to the crowd. He doesn't sugarcoat the story. He tells them where Oleg came from. He tells them about the journey, the struggle, and the power of his music. There's a moment of silence as the audience takes it all in. Then, Oleg steps up to the mic. His hands are probably shaking, his heart pounding. He's standing in front of thousands of people who have no idea who he is. All they know is the story they just heard. And then he performs. And in that moment, he's not an ex-convict. He's not a social project. He's an artist. He shares his story, his soul, through his music. The lyrics he wrote in that lonely cell now fill a stadium. The pain he felt is now a shared experience. And the crowd connects with it. They feel the honesty. They feel the raw emotion. They're not just listening to a song, they're witnessing a man reclaim his life, right there in front of them. By the end of his performance, the entire stadium is cheering. Not out of pity, but out of genuine admiration and respect. They saw a man who had been to the bottom and fought his way back, using his art as his weapon and his shield. This is the part that broke me. It's not just about a guy getting a lucky break. It's about the incredible power of empathy and second chances. In a world that's often quick to judge and discard people who've made mistakes, Basta used his massive platform to lift someone up. He didn't just give Oleg a stage, he gave him back his dignity. He showed thousands of people that a person is more than their worst mistake. That redemption is possible. And that art can be the bridge from despair to hope. Oleg's story is a powerful reminder that talent can be found in the most unexpected places. It shows that even when society has written you off, your inner voice can still cry out to be heard. And sometimes, if you're lucky, someone is willing to listen. For Oleg, that person was Basta. But the story is bigger than just two people. It challenges us to look beyond the labels we put on others, inmate, ex-convict, and see the human being underneath. It asks us to consider what we can do, in our own lives, to offer a second chance to someone who needs it. Watching the footage of that performance, seeing the look on Oleg's face as he pours his heart out, and seeing the crowd embrace him, it's one of the most moving things I've ever witnessed. It's a story of hope against all odds. It proves that a single act of kindness and belief can literally change the course of a person's life. It broke me because it was so real, so raw, and so beautifully human. It's a testament to the fact that our past doesn't have to define our future. So, what do you think about this story? Does it change your perspective on things? It definitely made me a bigger fan of Basta, not just for his music, but for his character. And it made me a believer in Oleg's journey. Thank you for letting me share this with you today. If this story moved you, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that matter. See you next time.